Test, test, test. Test 1, 2, 3. Greg, do you hear me online? Copy, thanks. All right, come on in, get a chair. Thank you, Valdo. Oh, there it is. Grab a seat. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. All right, everybody. We're going to get started. Thanks for coming. I know there's a few people that are new here. Can I get a show of hands if this is your first meeting? That's pretty good. All right. My name is Shane Terpstra. I'm the Director of Safety for the club. I'm going to turn it right over to Mr. Reed. Before I do that, don't get up just yet. Before I do that, I'm just going to kind of give you a rundown of what we're going to do, how this is going to flow. So Tom's got a presentation. That'll take about 15 minutes or so. He's going to talk about the ins and outs of airplane ownership. This is all about airplane owners, okay? After that, Dave Gordon, who just stepped out, is going to come back and talk to you. There's a couple other presentations. He's going to be the speaker for Denny Breslin, and I'll introduce them here when Tom's done and tell you which airplanes they own as well. And then we'll, after those presentations, then we'll go through. We've got a couple other owners that are going to basically talk to you about anything that they see with regards to what they like and what they don't like. We'll see which list is longer. And then after that, we'll open it up to general questions and answers. Why are you back there, Trent? All right. Now you can stand up, Tom. So Tom Reed, he used to own, I'll grab another chair, A148 Foxtrot, and then he pulled that out of the club.
I still own it.
Well, that's true, but it's not in the club.
Hello, everybody.
It's dead to me.
I am the volunteer owner ambassador for the club. So when people inquire about whether they should put an airplane in the club, I'm the guy that talks to them. And yes, I know I have a giant raspberry on my forehead. It is not from going, why did I buy an airplane? Why did I buy an airplane? Body surfing at low tide, but if you're going to speak to 100 people, put a giant raspberry on your forehead right before you do it. So we're going to talk about money and airplanes and how airplanes make money go away. So is that going to do that? Let's see. Did we turn it on? There we go. I love the. There we go. Larry Anglisano, editor-in-chief of Aviation Consumer, wrote a long time ago that it's fiscal insanity to own an airplane. But once you get over that, then you can talk numbers. But you have to realize from the get-go, it's fiscal insanity to buy an airplane. And that's my favorite quote from me. The only thing worse than owning an airplane is not owning an airplane. I have to have an airplane. So Plus One needs airplanes. That's why we put together this owner ambassador program, so we can tell you guys what it's like. There are some people that fit right in and will do very well leasing the airplanes to the club. Other people, their airplanes or their situation isn't right. Plus One is a 503c nonprofit. So we don't have any skin in the game with whether or not you make any money or not. We want to make you happy so that you stay in the club, and we want to make the members happy. This is where we insert the joke about the owners are all nonprofit organizations too, but Plus One provides the insurance, the scheduling, all the systems that coordinate the airplanes and the members, and that's about it. So when you when you put an airplane in the club, you're basically starting a small business. Plus One has the scheduling system. Our insurance is very good, but it's also very expensive. We provide great monthly accounting. We can provide email broadcasts to all the people that rent your airplane or for the whole club. And we have a great program called the IDP, which is short for Insurance Deductible Plan. And in the old days, we had this really high deductible, and if you paid a couple extra bucks each month in your dues, then the club would pay the deductible $10,000 if you biffed an airplane. So it made sense to do it. And as that matured, we realized this is really important and everybody should be part of this. So it's now mandatory, it's part of your dues, and it's also part of the cost you pay when you rent an airplane. There's a 2% fee so that goes in the IDP fund. It's also critical that we have this fund because there are times when we can't give another loss to the insurance company. We're about to get renewed, and we're right up here where we've claimed so much in claims, and if we go over that, then they're not going to like us next year. So right now, it's pretty well funded. I think we have about $250,000 in the IDP, but believe it or not, that goes really quickly when somebody biffs an expensive airplane. So what we won't do is we won't help you find your airplane. We won't maintain your airplane. We won't run your business for you. We won't find your hangar. I can tell you who to talk to if you need a hangar. We don't do your pre-buy inspection, so we expect you to be competent in doing all of that stuff ahead of time. We can tell you what airplane will work and what won't, but that's about it. So let's say you put your information in the website, now we're talking. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Do you need a write-off? That's the first question. If you don't need a write-off, that takes away some of the fun, because if you think you're going to make a lot of money as an owner, I got news for you. That's a picture of my Cirrus getting the ADS-B upgrade. I thought all I had to do was put a new transponder in, right? I went to visit the airplane and went, whoa, that was an $8,000 upgrade. Second question, will you fly the airplane yourself? If you're not going to fly the airplane yourself, then you're just kind of starting a business so that other people will fly your airplane. And I got a lot of better businesses for you that'll make more money and be less work. So you really should buy an airplane that you will fly. This is my favorite. Can you write a check with 2 digits in front of the comma without ruining your life? And I mean, you can't see the detail on this, but that's the $11,667 bill that we got 2 months ago when we turned our airplane in for an oil change. $11,667. That's the final bill for a 50-hour safety inspection. A big throbbing arrow. I love being able to do that. Okay, so we've determined that you need a write-off. Your airplane will be good for the club, and you'll use it yourself, and you're not so light in the wallet that you can't keep the airplane airborne, because it's very important to keep the airplane airborne, and that takes money. Is the airplane a good fit for the club? Trainers, yes. Oh my gosh, your trainer will fly more than you want it to. Trainers fly sometimes more than 100 hours a month. If you want something a little more fancy, like a high-performance airplane, maybe a Cirrus, that might not make a profit, but you can offset your cost of flying, and you're just going to have a much higher bar for entry because student pilots can't fly it. Maybe you want 250 hours or 500 hours and an instrument rating before you let them fly your airplane. And so you're going to have a lot fewer customers. I also made a note there that we don't advise that you put a turbo in the club. We've had several turbos. Every single one of them gets burned up. Then the owners want the IDP fund to pay for their new cylinders. And we say, no, we told you they'd ruin your airplane. So no, we're not going to buy you new cylinders. So don't put a turbo in the club. Recently, we had a really nice 206. I mean, one of the nicest 206s I've ever seen. Turbo 206, hull value $570,000. And at first I said, oh man, that'd be a great airplane to have in the club, wouldn't it? But then the more management talked about it, they said, okay, one loss on that would be over our ability to recover from it. And it's a turbo, so the members will blow up the engine. So no, we had to suggest that he goes somewhere else. What you don't want to do is put an exotic, rare, unique, or antique airplane in the club. That's a picture of my beautiful baby blue Tobago. And we bought that airplane with the highest expectations. It didn't really have that much different flying characteristics than an Archer, but it needed its own checkout. You had to get parts from France. It just didn't fly. And we were lucky to part with that airplane for about what we put into it. But gosh, it's a good looking airplane, isn't it? So we got all the 3 questions answered. We've picked a good airplane. Let's look at some numbers. So there's 2 kinds of numbers with airplanes. There's fixed numbers and there's operational cost. If you buy an airplane and put it in the hangar, at the end of the year, you're going to have to pay for the hangar, the insurance, and the annual inspection whether you fly or not. If you fly that airplane 1 hour and you spend $5,000 on your hangar, then your hourly rate for that hangar is $5,000 an hour. So tie down, insurance, GPS, property tax, LLC taxes if you put the airplane in an LLC, annual inspections, ADs, depreciation, all of that goes into fixed costs. Then there's operational costs. That's what happens when you start the engine. You got fuel, you got oil, you got TKS, you got oxygen, you got engine reserves, brakes, tires, all that stuff that wears out. You have to pay for the annual inspections and the engine reserves and all that stuff too. I just put a note in there that a P-51 generally costs about $5,000 an hour to operate, and there's a 10-to-1 ratio of hours in maintenance to flying. So I no longer want a P-51. I used to. Let's compute the actual cost, because it's tricky how much you're going to fly it. If an airplane flies 10 hours, it's a lot different than if the airplane flies 100 hours. So the super quick and dirty calculation is that it's going to be 3 times the hourly cost of the fuel burn. This is more accurate than you think. It's a little high, but you take a 172 at 9 gallons per hour, gas is $8 a gallon, 9 times 8 times 3 is $216 an hour is what it's going to cost you to operate that airplane. I think the average cost for 172s is a lot lower than 216 in our club. So you can see you're getting a deal if you use this. The Cirrus, 18 gallons an hour, 18 times 8 times 3, 432 an hour. I was charging $400 an hour at the end of the year when I still had it in the club, and we were not really breaking even. So that's a quick way to say, can I afford this airplane? If you can't afford the airplane, then don't buy it. This is a graph that'll show how much airplanes will fly. So in general, a trainer will fly 100 hours a month. Maybe less, maybe more, depending on how it's equipped, where is it, how much do you fly it. If you're flying it all the time, then your renters can't. A 182 might fly 30 hours a month, and a high-performance specialty aircraft like an SR-22 will fly 15 to 25. These numbers are too small to see for most of you guys, but the Cessna 172 average, this is just a generic 172 I grabbed off the web. It's 95, 92, 92, 102, and 74 were the averages for the years going back to 2021. So 100 hours a month. So if you're flying 100 hours a month, that's 2 50-hour safety inspections and oil changes. That's 1 100-hour inspection every month. A 182, those numbers for the last 4 years are 30 hours a year, or a month, 35 hours, 19, and 20. So you can see that it was increasing for that 182, partly because the economy got better and flying got busier, maybe because that airplane got improved upon. There's some downtime in there. And that's my SR-22, and you can see I flew 24, 31, 12, and 12. So, you know, the averages for an SR-22 is a lot lower than 182, and a 182 is a lot lower than a 172. So let's get into the weeds. How do we figure out the numbers? If you go to the website, I think I might have this in a different order. I'm going to show you here that a 172 that flies 100 hours a month generates $13,500 is going to make $3,500 a year, which is a 2.3 ROI. Woohoo! Right? If you're going to invest $150,000 and you want a better than 2% ROI, why don't you put it in a Schwab money market fund and then you don't get phone calls in the middle of the night? So you're not doing this because you're going to make a lot of money. So my spreadsheet is available on the website. So if you just go to the About section and then say you want to become an owner, put your name in right here. This is just a screenshot, and say send me help. You will get this spreadsheet, and you will get a whole list of frequently asked questions. That this email will look like it comes from me. I'll get a copy so I know that I've sent it to you. I want you to read the whole thing and all the questions and go through the spreadsheets and everything before you call me. And then I'm retired. I'm out body surfing and scuffing my head against the bottom of the ocean. I'm riding my bike and flying airplanes. So if I don't call you right back, I apologize. But keep hunting me down and I'll get a hold of you and we can talk about your situation. So we're going to break down this spreadsheet and take a look at this 172. Under this example, that's $150 an hour. It's going to fly 90 hours a month. So the engine TBO, let's call it 2,500. So let's say there's 1,000 hours on the engine right now, so you're going to get 1,500 hours out of it. So this will tell you got to save $30 an hour for your reserve, or you're not going to be able to afford your new engine when it comes due. This is the hourly operating and variable cost assumptions. You guys can get the spreadsheet, but basically it's going to tell you that the hourly operating costs based on the hours flown are about $128 an hour. And that's for fuel, oil, consumable replacements, and things like that. Then we're going to throw in your 50-hour inspections, your annual inspections, and we're going to get another monthly assumption of $1,600. There's our consumables budget. So we're going to say batteries, tires, brakes, prop overhaul. That all comes into play. That's $4 an hour times 90 a month. That's $360 every month. And this airplane is not financed. Most of the time, it's very difficult to finance an airplane that you put in a flying club. I now, thanks to Mark with the Bonanza, lead for people that want to finance their airplane. But if you finance your airplane, definitely it's not going to make any money. So here's your profit and loss calculation. That 172 is going to make $300 a month, which is about a 2.37 ROI. So I don't think that anybody's in this to make a lot of money, but you can help pay for your airplane. You can help pay for your flying. The other thing is that an airplane is generally an appreciating asset. So this is where the write-off comes in, and you get a little more fun on your tax return. So you can depreciate your airplane. So instead of declaring $2,000, you're writing off $1,400 because you're going to depreciate this thing at $1,400 a month. So there you go. You have a write-off. You're actually putting money in the bank, and you're flying an airplane. And let's hope it goes up in value. You're going to sell your airplane in 7 years for $197,000 when you bought it for $150,000. I see your question. I'm under a time constraint, so let's wait until the end. We'll ask them all at the same time. Thank you. So this graph was built by somebody a lot smarter than me, but it just shows that if you price the airplane higher and it flies more, you'll make more money. But you can see if you get in here, you're not pricing your airplane high enough, and maybe it doesn't fly enough, you could lose money pretty quick. So right in here, you'll see it turn into green. And if you charge $200 an hour for your 172, it's probably not going to fly 120 hours a month. It's probably going to fly more like 90 or 80, but it's still in the green. If you don't charge enough, you're not going to make any money. So this is my lesson. You are supposed to be subsidizing my flying. I'm not subsidizing your flying. So you have to price the airplane high enough that it's making money or breaking even. Let's look at my actual SR-22, because I put my SR-22 in the club in 2003, and I took it out at the end of 2023. There's a 20-year period in there. So I had all the ups and downs. And these are really round numbers that I can do in my head. So I parted with $1.5 million, according to my tax returns. I made $1.1 million. There was a net paper loss of $400,000. But I paid $300,000 for the airplane when I bought it, and I depreciated it, and that was considered an expense and part of the $400,000 loss. So really, I only parted with $100,000 over that period of time. And I flew 1,000 hours in that airplane, almost exactly. So it cost me $100,000 to fly 1,000 hours. Even I can do that in my head. That's $100 an hour to fly Cirrus that normally costs, back then it was $300, it ended up being $400 an hour. So I was flying for much less than I would have paid for any other way. And they paid off my loan too. So I think it was a pretty good deal. I now have a free and clear Cirrus and 1,000 hours in my logbook. It requires a lot of work though, and the club will put 10 or 20 or 30 times more wear and tear on your airplane than you will by yourself. So just that alone will wear out your airplane. Sometimes the club members are harder on your airplane than you would be personally. I know I'm very meticulous and careful, and oh my God, when I'd go in there and see, okay, some kid spilled peanuts all over the back seat, that would just drive me nuts. Prop strikes drive me nuts too. It's my prop, and that guy decided to land at Bullhead City where there were no services, so we had to go get the airplane with a, yeah, it was just, I won't tell you. Was it worth it? Hell yes. That's my friend screaming at me doing a low pass in Mexico. I mean, was that me? No. So the bottom line, if you can afford your own airplane and putting it in a hangar and all the expenses, for God's sakes, don't put it in the flying club. You don't need to. But if you want help paying for your airplane, you want to subsidize the cost of flying, you want to try to make a little money, maybe you'll get lucky, then maybe Plus One's for you. So if it is, then let's talk, and we'll make sure you get the right airplane and get taken care of. So, questions? Do you want to wait till the very end? Yeah, we're going to wait till the very end. But thank you very much.
Next up, we have Mr. You can give that to him, or Dave. You can use that mic there too. Either one. So we have Dave Gordon, 4922 Delta 3386 Echo, 172 Romeo Whiskey 96621, and 4975 Foxtrot. Yeah, got them all. All right, you should be. Do you want the clicker? Tom. Press the button that says power.
I'm not qualified. I did press the button, but it didn't work. You're a steam gauge guy. Steam gauge guy. That's right. Okay, I've got a short PowerPoint presentation. I'll try not to get too detailed here. There were some questions that were sent to the owners that said that you guys wanted to know this. Reasons why you want to lease an airplane in the club. The ones in red are kind of facetious. I want to subsidize other people's flying. I want to make a ton of money. You won't. I want a tax write-off, as Tom mentioned. That's a reasonable one. I want to have somebody else help pay for the expenses. I want to help Crown Air and the city of San Diego make a lot of money, because that's there you go. That is exactly the reason why our fuel prices at Montgomery are $2 more than everywhere else. It's because the city went and shafted Crown Air with a lease rate that's exorbitant, and then Crown Air's just passing the cost on to us. And another good thing is you get to enjoy watching people pass check rides in your airplane, if you own a training type airplane. What's it cost to maintain an airplane? This is just this is just last year's taxes. It's too much. Or there's a couple owners that I swear don't do any maintenance. For my 5 airplanes that I own in my 75 Foxtrots on a different little entity, but for these 5, maintenance repairs were $231,000, almost $250,000 last year. That's not counting the $46,000 in parts and other supplies, over $300,000 in fuel and oil. Hangars and tie downs were a measly $29,000. So if you want to be an owner, first thing I do is find a suitable airplane. It's hard to do these days. The fleet is getting older, and they're getting hard to find one that's good shape. Make sure you get a good pre-buy. Biggest thing to look for is corrosion. You don't want to buy an airplane that's full of corrosion. You need a tie down or a hanger. Hangers are really hard. Tie downs are relatively easy at both Gillespie and Montgomery, not so much at Palomar. You need to find a good maintenance shop. I have a really good one, but they're not taking any more customers. They're overloaded as it is. So that's a big thing to think about. You don't want to be an absentee landlord. You need to be involved, or you need to hire somebody to be your representative. And then, Plus One will do nothing to check on your airplane for you. To set the rental rate, you can use Tom's spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are fine, but they're not the end-all, be-all. You got to look at what the market's going to bear. Look at what your competition is, what fuel maintenance costs are. And the biggest thing I find is you need to communicate with the customers. The people that rent your airplanes, talk to them. Don't just send them emails. Got to listen.
Dave, I can make that spreadsheet lie to you. It'll show you that you're going to make so much money, and that's what you show your spouse. But in reality, you're right. Look at what the other airplanes are charging.
Okay, why is the clicker not working? There we go. So the other thing they told us we should talk about is what are our concerns and frustrations? These are my top ones. Failure to lean on taxi, breaking things, flat spotted tires, poor post-flight. I see people out there spending 45 minutes doing a pre-flight. They spend 30 seconds doing a post-flight. I don't get it. Another really hot button for me is I'll be out on the ramp a lot, so I hear these people start the engine. They're sitting there at 1,500 RPM, listening to ATIS. 8 to 900 RPM is fine. After you start the engine, the RPM creeps up and nobody notices. And then, nobody leans, or not nobody. There's a lot of people that don't lean, so please lean on taxi. And then the other thing I love is I watch the airplanes taxiing out, especially the ones that are parked farther down the ramp. They're taxiing out with 1,300 RPM and holding the brakes. Again, just doesn't compute. Broken things are a frustration. Here's my rosin visors. People like to take the Cessna window latch and spin it around, and they unscrew and fall off. Last one fell off in the ocean. Before tax, $382 for that little window latch. Thank you, Cessna. Oh. There we go. Oh, flat spotted tires. I love this one. Right through, not only through the tire, through the tube. Come on, up. I don't keep oil in the back of my airplane or funnels because I'd find the funnel in a bag, the little Ziploc bag I put in full of oil in the bottom of the bag. I put a little organizer in the baggage compartment, and this is what it looks like frequently. Okay, I feel like I'm on Jeopardy. There we go. Take this first one here. Notice the control lock. Does that look right to you? You know how many times a week I find that? Dave Eby talked on the Facebook a while back about there was a couple running around Gillespie trying to get into all the Plus One airplanes on the ramp. Luckily, they were all locked. I find mine unlocked all the time, especially the co-pilot door. CFI gets out, shuts the door, nobody locks the door. And then I like this. Somebody thought that the latch was a pen holder. Covers, they're a sore point. Please, when you take the cover off, unsnap them. Don't just go yank. I have a 97-year-old upholstery guy who fixes my covers and doesn't charge me, but I'd prefer not to have to send them to him. I'm constantly I can replace the snaps, but not when they rip a hole in it. And then some reason or other they don't get put on there. And then remember I said lean. These are what fouled spark plugs look like. See that little dot there? That's a piece of lead. If you over lean it, the lead comes out of solution and drops into the bottom spark plug. There's 2 spark plugs in every cylinder. The bottom one's usually the one that fouls. And I brought some show and tell here for you if you want to take a closer look later. And then you want to select a good co-pilot or CFI. I've got Gretchen. And if I don't have Gretchen, if weight and balance isn't a big deal, you can get a next one. You get a larger co-pilot. And then my last slide here, Two Romeo Whiskey is one of mine. A lot of people know it. Somebody took this picture and put it on Facebook. Thought it was a really cool picture. That thing has been flying like crazy. 86 Echo flew 160 hours last month. Two Romeo Whiskey's flown 120. 22 Delta's flown 125 this month already, which means, we got another 9 days in the month. It's crazy. And as if I'm not insane enough, I bought another airplane, 7579 Tango. It's 182 RG. It'll be in the club here within a month. It's over at the avionics shop getting more money poured into the panel than the airplane I purchased the airplane for, but not a G1000. It'll be a Dave, go away. Anyway, it's going to have a G3X, GTNs, and I don't tell you the whole thing here. Am I supposed to go
Do you
through?
want to do it?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
Denny Breslin couldn't be here tonight. He asked me to. I sent him my PowerPoint. He said, "Here, add these 7 slides on there." So, yeah. So he's asking people, pay attention to the White Arc. This is also a hot button of mine. I've done a lot of flap repairs, a lot of flap tracks. I even had a flap turn into a pretzel once. People don't force flight. This doesn't bug me so much, but that's EB's problem. But and this one I couldn't quite understand. The Crown Air always puts their grounding alligator on the exhaust pipe. I've never had an exhaust pipe do this, but Denny asked people to use the tie-down ring instead of the exhaust pipe. So not locking both doors, that's as I mentioned. And overfilling oil, using a partial quart of oil and then putting the half-empty bottle in the back and then it spills over the baggage compartment. He wants his oil cans back. I keep mine back because I recycle them, I don't refill them. Leaving things a mess, flat-spotted tires, tow bar. I'm not Shane, this one, is that an actual FAR that you can't have a tow bar in the baggage compartment if you're flying IFR? Where'd that rule come from? Putting cover on inside out, not putting the cover on at all. Instructors, this is a big one for me. I see instructors with brand new students. They get out of the airplane, they're on their way back to the Gibbs building, and their students there to pre-flight or post-flight, and they're not helping them. I think as an instructor, you should be, confident your student is either capable of doing it, and then you should still spot check. A lot of people don't clean windows. They break things. And the things that are appreciated this is a good list from Denny. I didn't think about this, but following the standard operating procedures and common sense, please. Calling or texting problems immediately. Thorough pre-flight and post-flight. Thank you if you do. Because there's a bunch of good CFIs and pilots in the club that do a really good job. And unfortunately, the small number that don't do it right make everybody look bad. This is good advice. Take pictures when you're pre-flighting so that if somebody says you flat spotted a tire, you say, no, it was like that before I left. But if it's flat spotted and the cord's showing, don't fly it, please. Post-flight, let somebody else know. Clean up after yourself. Tie down and cover after every flight. Another one is something that was on the Signal app recently. If you're going to be late, you get out there and something happens, you get delayed coming back, text the next person, let them know. It's so unfair. I see people sitting on the ramp, where's my airplane? Anyway, I'll leave the questions for later.
Yeah, over to Trent real quick, and then hand it over to Trent.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll introduce everybody here, and just to piggyback on a couple things that Dave said. As far as information, so we've seen more and more lately, if you look at the schedule, every single schedule of a trainer is booked from like 6 a.m. until midnight, every single one of them. So if you're going to be late, you gotta make phone calls. And the thing that's really interesting to me is we have made it so easy for you to see where the owner information, or to see the owner information. You get it in a pre-flight email, you get it in a post-flight email. You can click on the web page for the airplane. So it's all over the place. And inevitably I get one or two every month. How do I get a hold of the owner? Right? The information is out there. You got to talk to the owner. They're the only ones that can pay the repair bill. So if you're going to squawk whatever the discrepancy is, fine, but you got to call the owner because somebody's got to pay the bill, okay? And then the other part of that is, as Dave said, and this is again an issue that we see at least 2 or 3 times a month, an airplane that's returned, so someone does a someone does a pre-flight, usually an instructor, they send a picture of a flat spotted tire with cord showing. So then I get a hold of the person that had just flown it, and the response 99% of the time is, that wasn't me. So either one of two things happened. Either you took off with a known discrepancy, in which case you violated the FARs, or you caused it. Neither one are good, and it's not really defensible. So this is where the post-flight in the airplane comes into play. Whether or not it has wheel pants or not is irrelevant. You can pull the thing forward, you can push it back, you can see it no matter what, right? So with that being said, I'll introduce and then I'll let you talk. Trent Cherry owns 5908 Sierra. That's the Debonair over at Gillespie. Paul Shue owns 811 Tango Whiskey and most of 210 Bravo X right now. The other part of it is, well, broken. Sorry. And then you already met Dave and Tom, and Paul Breed is 9242 Hotel. So we'll go this way. We'll open it up for them just to kind of give their the last 2 cents, and then we'll open it up to everybody for questions.
Trent Cherry, you're welcome. I did not do a PowerPoint because I can't stand them. So, but yep, you're welcome. Like I said. The only real complaints I've had, or that I have as an owner, is like when pilots will do a squawk on the plane without calling me. Because what a lot of pilots don't understand is once you squawk that plane, it has to, for the most part, has to go to the mechanic shop. And sometimes it doesn't, if you just call me, we can talk about it, and it doesn't need to go to the mechanic shop. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to tell you not to squawk. If you feel like you need to, you go ahead and do it. But just call us first, because it might be a known thing. It might be something we've already discussed with maintenance. It might be one of those little ghosts in the wires. And, you know, we've already spent hundreds of hours on the issue, but it's something that, you know, you cycle the engine. And guess what? That little light goes away. So always call the owner first before you do any squawks. That would be my recommendation. And I don't think there's a single owner that I'm aware of in the club that will actually tell you not to squawk, because you're the one operating it, but that's just kind of a common sense kind of thing as far as I'm concerned. Also, I had an issue a couple weeks ago. Pilot was unaware that he actually cut himself in the plane, and he exited the plane, and he left a crime scene in the plane with blood. The next pilot instructor calls me up, and he says, it looks like somebody slaughtered a dog in your plane. So I contacted the pilot who this happened to. He wasn't even aware that he had cut himself, and he offered to come and clean the seat covers. Well, by that time I had already talked to Evie about it, and now we've got bodily fluid in the plane, and we can't just clean it. So I had to get it professionally cleaned, and for 3 seat covers, the back seat and the 2 front seats, sheepskin covers, $480. No, airplane's not down, because I still have the leather seats, but, you know, still $480 to go to a dry cleaner to do that. Yeah, it's like the window latch. And that's not even including the time and effort taking it off and putting it back on. A lot of what I've also noticed is a lot of pilots don't really understand the total costs that are involved. Like Tom was saying, he went in for a $700 oil change, which is normal. For any plane in the club is $700 oil change every 50 hours. That's a normal thing. Well, is it now for you 900? But you know, he walks out at $11,500, and that was just for landing gear something situation. Yeah. So you know, you do. You can't not do it. So you know, a lot of us have a lot of money tied up in these planes, and I think a lot of the renters in the club don't understand that they're able to rent something that's like a Ferrari for a couple $100 an hour. Treat it like that Ferrari. Don't treat it like that Hertz Honda. And a lot of times, as a lot of us owners feel like we're getting our planes treated like that Hertz Honda. So just it's very expensive to get parts. It's very expensive for maintenance. And that's really the only thing I got. So.
Hey everyone. Paul Shue, I own, as Shane said, I own Tango Whiskey and Bravo X-Ray. So some of you probably heard that Bravo X-Ray didn't have a good flight last Saturday. But anyway, we'll get through it. I think Trent's pretty much said it. The two Daves have already said most of what I was going to say. I think where I would start is kind of what you were saying about the squawks. Please, please, please call us. It just really hurts when you get a call from a pilot saying, well, have you fixed this squawk? And you don't even know that there's a squawk out there. Thankfully, the system, Shane, is great that it actually does email you now. But then you're sort of looking at maybe a simple sentence that just says the aircraft is down or something along those lines, so you don't really know what's wrong with it. So please call, please write, please text, or something along those lines, and just let us know what's going on. Yeah, all of the above. And then the other thing is that, like Trent was saying, if you can call beforehand and actually maybe there's something that you can kind of resolve over the phone, or maybe there's a little quirk.
The experienced technicians at Rescue.
Over 50 years old, and it's like starting a Model T, right? So it's like it takes a little, TLC. And usually that squawk happens at 4:30 on a Friday. So now the rest of the weekend is pretty much screwed and all the pilots are going to fly it over that weekend because you can't get a hold of somebody to basically have a look at it or fix it at 4:30 on a Friday or 5 o'clock on a Friday. So, and again, I'm not a mechanic, so I can't basically, disposition it and basically put it back online. The other thing would be is, I would, the aircraft that I have aren't necessarily trainers. They're aircraft that people take to Oshkosh and all over the country. And actually, they have followings all over the world. I have people coming from, Germany, South Korea, all over the world, basically, that come over and actually are members of this club, and then they take the aircraft and they fly it all over the US. There's nothing worse than basically a person about to hop on a flight from Germany, and then you have to call them and basically say the aircraft's not available because somebody did something to it. So there's things like that I would just say, be as communicative as you can possibly be with the aircraft. It's not a Hertz or a Avis vehicle, right? It needs TLC, a lot of TLC, especially post-flight. Please clean the aircraft. He talks about blood. I've